Hey, what's going on, y'all? Steve Peterson of Infinity Investments. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 ways of finding great multifamily deals. All right, 5 ways of finding multifamily deals. Now it's December 2020, right? Multifamily market in the Bay Area is slowing down a little bit, but it's still tight. Not a lot of inventory, not a lot of options. So if you're a buyer and you're out there looking for deals, it's not the easiest time, right? And over the last few years, particularly, you can't just rely on what's on LoopNet or what's on CoStar or what's on the MLS, right? You got to have some strategies to find great deals, all right? And that's one of the things I cut my teeth on. We started the company in November 2009 in the Great Recession. So I had to find great deals for my clients, right? So I'm going to talk about 5 ways of doing that. And if you're interested in this type of content in the commercial real estate investing world, subscribe to this station. Throw me a like on this video. If you don't like it, throw me a dislike. Tell me what you don't like about it, all right? So strategy number 1 in finding great deals is have a great broker or agent that you are working with, scouring the market. Now, this is important because a lot of real estate investors feel as though, hey, I don't need a real estate agent. I can find my own deals. And you're right, you can find your own deals. However, real estate, especially commercial real estate agents or brokers, are pounding the pavement every single day. It's kind of their job description or business description. They are making calls, making connections. Every single property that comes to the market, before it was to the market, a broker found it and brought it to the market. All right, and the reason why you want to have a broker in the market that you're working, by the way, you need to be working with a broker who specializes in that market. All right, if you're looking for something in Sacramento, don't bring a San Francisco broker, right? It's, they got to specialize in that market. They're always going to have something in their back pocket. Maybe a client who said, hey, I don't want to list my property, but if you bring me a buyer, I'll sell. And by the way, they almost all say that at some point in time. If they don't want to list the property, because people sometimes, everybody's a seller at the right price, but they might not be ready to list, okay? So if they're not ready to list, they'll tell a broker, hey, well, I'll tell you, if you find a buyer, bring me a deal. Now, it's frustrating to us brokers, but the bottom line is we keep those guys in a list, in a database. We're following up with them. So when we get a buyer who wants a similar type property as that, we know who to call, all right? And brokers always have somebody like that. And brokers are always banging the phones out, marketing. And so you want to have a broker or agent who, and by the way, somebody who's actively listing properties in that market, all right? Very, very important. As a broker, I'm always going to advocate for that. But even for people outside our company, investors are always looking for properties, and most investors find properties through agents, okay? So there's this myth that you don't need a real estate agent to find deals. I think especially in the multifamily space, you want to work with one of the top listing agents in that area and tell them you're looking for off-market deals, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, always track defaults, all right? Always track default properties. If you're an investor, if you are an agent, somebody out there, you got to be tracking what's in default. Now, in the times past, we haven't had a lot of default properties, right? That's beginning to change though, all right? Like I told y'all, I started the company in November 2009. It was a whole bunch of default. Everything was in default at that time. Come on, it was a great recession. The whole world was in default. So you got to be tracking that though, because there's always going to be somebody somewhere at some time in distress. That's just kind of how it works. Even when the market's rolling, somebody's unfortunately going through divorce. Somebody's going through a bankruptcy. Somebody had made a bad business move, or somebody just over leveraged. It's just a part of life. So you got to track what's going on in the distress world. I use a website called Property Radar. It used to be called Foreclosure Radar. Something I use. You got to pay for it every month, but it allows me to stay up to date with what's in default and what's going on, okay? I also use a system called Prospect Now. I can track those defaults, find out what's in default. I take that address, cross-reference it in Prospect Now. Prospect Now gets me phone numbers and mailing addresses, because at the end of the day, you can track them all you want. You got to make contact with the owners. It's a contact sport, okay? A lot of you guys are professionals. You already know this, but I'm just giving some ideas for people to be able to think outside the box, to be able to find great deals. Now, investors, you can do this with or without your agent. All right, I advise working with an agent. If you find something, hey, we got something over here, we can work it together. You got, and if you don't want to do that, fine. But you can track the faults, track what's going on, see what's up, take that information, cross-reference it to get the phone numbers or mailing address. I told you the 2 systems I use, Property Radar, Prospect Now. There's a million other ones in the residential world. Like if you're looking at 2 to 4 units, you can use RedX. We use as agents, we sign up for RedX. That gets us, properties in default, also gets us expired listings, which brings me to the third way to find great multifamily deals. That's cold calling. I know that's like a bad word. It's like a four letter word, all right? But check it out, man. It's old school, but it works. If you cold call owners, you're going to get somebody who wants to sell. Now, which is another reason why you want to work with brokers. A lot of investors are too busy, especially if you already own a lot of properties. We're like, man, I'm too busy to be cold calling people, but brokers, we do that on a regular basis. However, some of the most successful real estate investors that I know still will make cold calls. And maybe it's a little bit more dialed in cold calls, like they're cold calling people who are on the foreclosure list, or they're cold calling a building that they drove by and they like, or they drove by, it's got, tall weeds or whatever. But making all the cold call is you call somebody you don't know, all right? And in the real estate business, whether that's in residential, whether you're selling high-rise office, retail, apartment buildings, I just think it's one of the more effective ways to get in contact with the sellers, all right? Now, there's some methods to the madness. There's some scripts you can use. There's a million different scripts on the internet. If you just go multifamily cold calling scripts, you'll find a bunch of them. But the bottom line is it's a numbers game, okay? It is a numbers game. You got to be doing it consistently. You got to be reaching out to people consistently. All right. Now, on that note, I'll just throw in this little bonus. A lot of people in the business still do mailers. All right. Mailers cost some money. Brokers do a lot of mailers. Investors do a lot of mailers, to the property owners. Now, especially in the apartment building business, a lot of the owners are still old school. So they are checking their mail. They're going to see that mailer. All right. I know we're in this digital marketing. I do a lot of digital marketing videos like these, but in the bottom line is a lot of people who own commercial real estate, a lot of people own apartment buildings, they still old school, all right? So that you got to kind of meet them where they're at. So sending those mailers out, I kind of put that in the same strategy as cold calls. I think is very, very important, okay? Whether that mailer is just a mass mailer with postcards, or it's an individual mailer. By the way, a lot of people don't do this. Individual, send them a letter, send them a postcard, send them a personal message card. Is very, very effective way. But you gotta reach out to people you don't know if you're really interested in finding these great deals. And at least have a broker or agent on your team who's willing to do that. Okay? Number 4, another old school method, driving for dollars. Okay, here's what we mean driving for dollars. What that means is you identify your farm territory. And everybody should have a particular territory that we call in the business the farm, either the zip code or the area. If you're in apartments, maybe it's more than just one zip code. Maybe it's a whole, like East Oakland, or maybe it's like downtown Stockton, or, whatever neighborhood. It's a larger area that you're working. You want to, on a regular basis, maybe once a week, drive around. And what you're looking for is you're looking for signs of distress. You're looking for signs of vacancy, okay? So, and particularly if an owner has a vacant unit, what you'll see, and they're not professionally managed, which a lot of buildings aren't, you'll see like a Home Depot for rent sign somewhere on the property, or a basic for rent sign. Now, if it's a professional property management sign, that may or may not be what you're looking for. But if it's a Home Depot sign, it's exactly what you're looking for. You call them up and say, hey, I see you got some units for rent. Have you ever, considered selling the property if the price and terms are right? Or are you open to a discussion about a sale if the price and terms are right? You just call them and reach out to them. Or you send them a mailer, okay? You drive by a property, it's boarded up. Great opportunity. You drive by a property, it's just looking hurt. It's looking wounded, You need some help, Send them a mailer, send them a call. But by driving by, I closed the deal. I'll give you an example of this. Back in 2011, this property was a yet built property, meaning that it was in foreclosure, but it was not completed construction. So on the record, right? When you pull it up on foreclosure radar at that time, it showed as a 10,000 square foot vacant lot, right? So the marketplace, people, the guys who track foreclosures, all they see 10,000 square foot vacant lot. Nobody wants a 10,000 square foot vacant lot, right? However, what it really was a 31 unit condominium development that was 70 to 80% complete. It didn't show that because they hadn't had the completed permits. On the record, it only showed 10,000 square feet. I knew it was a condominium complex because I drove by it all the time. So when I saw it on the database and I drove it, and I knew by driving it and seeing it boarded up, I knew there was an issue. I looked up who the lender was. I reached out to the lender. I tracked it. They foreclosed upon it. I had a buyer. When they foreclosed, I called them up. We closed the deal. It was a nice size deal too. But it would have never came to fruition if I just was sitting on my laptop looking at the deal, right? I had to actually get my feet to the street. I know that's a foreign thing in 2020, right? We got so much technology, we're sheltering in place and all this stuff. But you can drive around with your mask on and identify some opportunities, all right? Driving for dollars can make you some money, even in commercial and investment real estate, all right? That in the residential investor home flippers world, a lot of money is made in that space. In the commercial and investment property space, a lot of us, we don't even think about that. I don't need to do that. I just told you about a deal where that strategy helped me out a lot, right? And the last thing to think about is a blend of expired listings and overpriced listings, okay? Here's what I mean by that, okay? You see, now, real estate agents, we have access to the expired listings that expire, right? Either on CoStar or LoopNet, MLS, all right? As an investor, you have access to looking at listings that have been sitting for 6 months, all right? And a lot of times investors just say, it's sitting for 6 months, they're unreasonable, I'm not gonna mess around with it. I gotta tell you, I've done several deals by looking at and seeing a property that was listed forever, right? Obviously, it's listed at a higher price, but that person wants to sell it, okay? A lot of times what happens is people in the marketplace don't want to waste their time going after a deal like that. However, putting an offer in writing, submitting it, actually works wonders. And I've had 3, and in fact, I'm in contract on a property now that sat forever. We watched it, we had made an offer on it like 5 months earlier. It sat, it eventually got a price reduction, all right? We called them, we struck a deal. But we're monitoring the market for listings that sit on the market forever. Obviously, as brokers and agents, we're looking for expired listings as well. Okay, another little nuance that you might want to look up, especially now, this is really more so for agents, is looking on the residential MLSs for the commercial listings. A lot of times, residential agents will list a commercial property and put it on MLS, and they will not put it on LoopNet, CoStar, or Crexton. A lot of it's very expensive to sign up for those websites. So every now and again, you check what's on MLS in the commercial for apartments, and you'll see something listed there that is not on the real apartment building market. And that worked on a couple years ago. We found a 9-unit building like that in a great area of Oakland. My client was in a 1031 exchange, and we just could not find the right deal. I was on a residential MLS one day, and that a 9-unit caught my eye. And I was like, wait a minute. That's not on LoopNet. It's not on CoStar. I looked at it again. It's on the market, but 200-something days, right? In a very hot apartment market. Long story short, we ended up closing that deal. Bottom line is, look at expired listings and listings that have been sitting forever. A little wrinkle to that. Check the residential MLS for commercial properties. You're not going to find a lot of them, but every now and then you might find that one. And it only takes one sometimes to get what you want. So I hope this video has been helpful. We talked about the 5 ways of finding great multifamily deals, having a great broker agent on your team, very, very, very critical, tracking defaults, making cold calls, driving for dollars, and going after expired listings or listings that have been sitting on the market or listings that are commercial listings in the residential MLS. I hope this has been helpful. If it has, throw me a like, subscribe to this station. Let's stay tapped in, and best of success to your investing career.